Get ready for Real Talk with Pasha B in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so thanks for tuning into this episode of Real Talk with Pasha B. Today we are talking about sexual harassment and in the limelight or in the media, rape culture and how it's actually a new story coming out every day, it seems like. We are me and Sheneka. Hey, Sheneka.
Hey, Pasha. How are you?
I'm great. Sheneka, how are you?
I'm swell. It's just another day here in Atlanta. Another good day. Is it a good day?
Yeah, I think it's a good day.
It's a little cloudy, a little overcast, but it's good.
Mm-hmm. We have some special guests with us. So we are joined by, this is like a type of an anniversary type thing, because when we came back, we used to live stream on TuneIn Radio. When we did our first podcast, this guest, Demecos, was here with us. So Demecos, it's been about a year. It's been almost a year.
It has.
It has.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm glad you guys, seem like you're able to tolerate me. I know I have some views that may be a little bit outside the lines. And last time we had a great old time.
We did have a great time.
You know what I'm saying?
Last time.
And I appreciate you guys also for giving my boy Mark some opportunity.
Yeah.
To launch his thing too. But yeah, we had fun last time, man. I'm ready to rock and roll this time again.
And I expect for us to have a great time this time as well. So Demecos is also a life coach. So Demecos is going to kind of be giving us a perspective of both. Mm-hmm. All right. We have Miss Noelle here. She's a returning guest as well. Hey, Noelle, how are you?
Thank you for having me,
Thank you for coming back. And Miss Tracie.
Hey, Pasha.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. So Sheneka is going to go ahead and start us off.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
So we've done this about 50 million times, and every time I toss it to her, she's like, "Oh, it's me."
She knows she the head.
Like she didn't see us coming around in a circle.
Right. That was purposeful, wasn't it?
Okay, so first of all, if we're going to talk about sexual harassment, the first thing we need to do is define sexual harassment.
Absolutely.
So typically when you speak about sexual harassment, you're talking about something that takes place in the workplace. So I pulled up EEO's website and I have the definition from there. It says sexual harassment is a form of sexual discrimination that violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, la, 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 la. Anyway, it's unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. That's...
Who is EEO?
Employment Opportunity Commission.
I don't know why she just didn't go to Wiki.
Right.
Because this is legitimate.
That's law.
I think the key word there is unwelcome.
Yeah.
Unwelcome. And that's a conversation I think we're going to touch on as well.
Yeah, because
as
that
far
is a key
the
word.
unwelcome and also that whole communication piece. Because in these instances, have the accusers been put on notice that it's unwelcome?
Can we go there, Sheneka? Can we start it off with it?
We're just going to start it off?
Please.
Okay, so, and I'm just going to say it. I may have an unpopular opinion. I'm going to try very hard to be very tactful in what I say so the women don't come after me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my position is, in a lot of the cases of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct, I see there's a failure of due process. And I can relate on a certain level because in instances I've been, let's just say, accused of certain things as like at work or whatever.
You've been touching people?
No. Not sexual harassment. Okay. Let's just say harassment across the board.
These toys. You know I said toys.
Well, I'm just going to say harassment across the board. I think anybody who has had any type of managerial position,
yes,
at their job, where the EEO is a process that can be utilized, have had some type of allegation claimed against them. Mm-hmm. So I've had several. Mm-hmm. Wow. And what happens is when someone has some type of disciplinary action or someone is being held accountable, that's when these allegations manifest.
Or the cleavage that you be showing.
Not at all. Not at all.
Lean over
Not at all.
What?
Mr. Williams.
Not at all. So my concern about the whole due process is that the accusers, it seems, in the court of public opinion, they're not getting that due process. There's an allegation that's being presented, and all of a sudden, society is jumping on this person. Not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying, where's the due process?
So you're saying it should be equal on both sides, that if you bring up an allegation, you should have due process or fairness to be able to represent yourself and give your opinion as to why this is not true.
Because the way things are presented right now, I can literally say, Demecos had I'm just saying.
This has never happened before.
This is just an example, hypothetically speaking.
For the record.
I can literally go on Facebook or go to some media outlet and say, you know what? Demecos, who perpetuates himself to be some type of life coach, he assaulted me. I can do that.
Right.
And for the most part, because I'm a woman,
Demecos will lose business.
Side with me, and his career is going to be in jeopardy, just based on me making an allegation.
So you're saying guilty before innocent? Like you're saying that
innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely,
that's what it should be.
Yeah. And often what I hear, and I have a problem with this as well. I've heard in the media when we're talking about all these high profile celebrities is that we're victim shaming, and why would they lie about something like that?
Word.
Guess what? Folks lie. When people don't get what they want, they lie. Right. When people are being held accountable for something that they don't like, they lie. Right. You knew he was married when you was messing with him, but guess what? He trying to cut it off. You know what? I'm going to go public and do XYZ. So what I'm saying is, I'm sure there are allegations that are absolutely true. But all of them, I refuse to believe that absolutely all of them don't fall into the category of this person just didn't get what they want. You going back home to your wife and you're not going to stay with me. You know, those are very real as well. And I'm just saying, let's have that conversation as well instead of just accepting the allegation and jumping on the accused. That's all I'm saying. That was a mouthful.
It was. But it was a great opening.
Yeah, I mean, we can unpack that in so many ways. You have... So the thing about it is that both can be correct. The accuser could have a motive, and it could have actually still happened. And the issue is that the public, ourselves, it doesn't even mean it has to be a big internet thing. It could be something everyone at the office knows, right? Can all perceive you to be a certain way due to this accusation that has came about. Now, what can change is legislatively, or whatever the office politics are. You could be removed from that position. You could be reprimanded in some way. Okay, that could be handled. But once that's handled, the public opinion still is out there. Yep. There's nothing that you can really do to eliminate that from people's minds. Because people are still going to have their perceptions of you altered due to this accusation. And so that falls into the bigger notion the bigger problem that it's not necessarily the acts that are occurring. It's us. It's common people's ability to not be critical thinkers about scenarios and situations and challenges that arise. Instead of us thinking to try to place someone or something into a box, we need to approach it with understanding. Well, how he did this, well, what's his history? She did that, what's her history? It's not necessarily a right or wrong thing. It's an understanding of why it even occurred in the first place. Are we creating a culture that supports this to happen? Are we creating a culture that supports people to come out about it? Are we? So that, I think those are the more important conversations to have around it as us who draw opinions and ideas from that is how critically are we thinking about these accusations that are being made?
Go ahead, Tracie.
I think this is a kind of dangerous territory because if we look historically at what's happening with women in the workforce, and they have always been in a patriarchal rape culture where they didn't feel that they had a voice to be able to say, I don't want to be swat on the butt with a newspaper as I walk by while I get your coffee. And so, yes, there are incidences where people are falsely accused. People are being, it's a retaliation thing because you wrote them up, and so now they're claiming harassment. I get that, but at the same time, this is why women don't come forward. Is because they're feeling like people are not going to believe me, and there is a lot of legitimacy around being able to say, "Hey, I don't wish to be treated this way. You are my boss. You do have power over me, and I don't appreciate. It's unwelcome. I don't want to be harassed, and I should be able to be believed when I say what I'm saying." So I see it from both aspects of a man or a woman or anyone who is being falsely accused. But I would say that the majority of them are legitimate cases.
But here's just interesting is that even the Pew reported that when it comes to women and men feeling like their corporation, their company that they work for, support like they're confident about how serious their company takes sexual harassment. 87% of women polled that they feel that their company takes it seriously, while 82% of men polled that their company does take it seriously. So both genders take it seriously. Women even more than men believe that their company takes it more seriously than what we think. I think also at the same time we have to, if we're going to tell the truth about these scenarios, about this, have true honest conversation about this, then we need to tell the truth about how it's occurred, because we lose cognizance that this is new. Like the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, where but prior to 1964, as a woman, you could get touched around the office. You could get rejected from a job simply because you're a woman. So those people from the 60s are still in charge.
I get that.
So it's going to take a while before we get those people out of power, because they're still carrying around those old ideologies from the 60s. And we're trying to force them to change their entire foundation of beliefs overnight. And that's just not realistic.
Then let's pose it this way. There was Jim Crow for many years.
Yep.
And so now these Jim Crow people still work, right? But you work there.
Yes.
And you still want respect. And so for us to say, you know what, Jim, I know it's really hard for you to work with Black people now. I know it's a shift change for you, and it's going to be hard for you to start appreciating Demecos and what he brings to the table, and not calling him a nigger boy.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah, but that's real. Like, what's wrong with that? Everyone doesn't change or take confrontation the same.
What I'm saying
is if I'm paying you, I don't care if you're used to that or not.
That's a problem, because when you talk to an employer about a boss or a person that's in a leadership position, they don't care that you're in a leadership position if you're a good boss to them or you're a bad boss to them. They don't. The being paid isn't enough to have me change my beliefs. That's what
I'm saying is that,
but it's enough to get you to change how you manifest that, how it's manifested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to then suppress it, and then we're going to have a bigger problem. Because now it's not going to be known that you even have a problem.
You have a right to be able to do your job as a Black man in the workplace without being harassed by Jim Crow, Mr. Jim Crow. A woman also deserves to be able to work in that work environment without us having to say, well, that's just Jim. Jim was brought up in the 60s, and it's hard for him to be able to that learning curve.
But what's wrong with creating understanding? No one's saying that you have to accept it.
I'm going to give Jim a pass.
So I'm confused. I'm confused. Yeah, go ahead, Noelle.
I wanted to weigh in on what both of you all said. You mentioned defining sexual harassment to open it, right? I think we need to have a serious conversation about exactly what harassment is. Harassment is not just grabbing titties, swatting your ass when you walk by. Harassment can be, your review is coming up. What you doing Friday? Harassment can be a look that you get from this guy every time you walk past him. Harassment can be completely nonverbal.
And it also could be you don't even have to be the direct target.
No.
So literally, I could be having a conversation with you, Demecos, and we could be sharing explicit jokes.
And Pasha over there with her virgin ears don't want to hear none of that.
Yeah.
But she got a rabbit in the purse.
But yeah, absolutely. If she's offended by our conversation, then that falls under it as well.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
And to add to that, like you were saying, we do live in a patriarchal society. So in a can we all agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we agree on that?
I'll give you that.
Okay. So in a patriarchal society, women are automatically perceived as weaker. We're weaker. That's why it's hard for people to believe a man when he says a woman raped him.
Mm-hmm.
So if women are perceived as weaker and emotional, we're perceived as less honest.
Hold on.
I don't
back
see
you
that
up.
correlation.
I gotta back you up on that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can correlate that. I have more examples of how women are perceived as emotional, as dishonest than I have of the correlation. But if I come out and claim he rapes me off the top, I have to prove it. Which nothing's wrong with that, but off the top, well, what were you wearing? Well, what were you drinking? Well, have you had sex with him before? All of this is, I don't believe you.
Right. So let me ask you this:
So
surrounding due process, how should it look?
I think it should look more like, I don't know if she's telling the truth or if he is. Let's just do a fair investigation. I personally don't think that, especially sexual assault cases, should not play out in public. It should be in a courtroom behind closed doors. The police, the accused, the accuser, and their attorney.
So now all these alleged incidences of sexual harassment have played out, unfortunately, in the public spotlight in the media. So what Sheneka's saying is Aziz Azrin.
And Zari.
Yeah. So with
funny
his
guy, by the way.
Funny guy. Yeah. Is everybody familiar with?
Yeah, I've been watching Marathon of him all week.
So even though this may look a little different than the trend that's been going on, and I'm just going to give, I guess, a snapshot based upon what I've been filled in on. So he went on a date with someone. They went back to his home. They had consensual sex. At some point in time, she didn't like the fact that they were having consensual sex. She left, and now she is stating that he should have picked up on her body language and cues. Nonverbal cues.
I'm calling total bullshit on that.
Hold on, let her finish.
I'm sorry.
I want to say something too.
Okay,
to that.
I'm sorry.
And that now she's saying that there was some type of sexual assault that happened.
Okay. Here's the thing with that. It doesn't matter if I am in full on sex with you. The moment that I say, I'm done, get off me, I don't want this anymore, is the moment that it's over.
Did she say that?
And we don't know that.
She didn't say that.
So, based upon what we have, and what's out there,
she said nonverbal.
If we're taking exactly what we have in front of us, because that's all we have at this point in time, not what's said in the lawyer's office and the police department, all that stuff. She said that he should have identified her nonverbal cues.
That sounds like to me she was being coached. PR.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what. This is Pasha's view. I'm about to go there.
Let's be tactful.
Go in.
Stretch
it out. So you go on a date, romantic. He invites you back to his house. Noelle know where I'm going with this. He's not inviting you over there to fucking place categories.
No.
Facts, though.
No.
Okay?
Facts, though.
So, with that being said, you have sex. If you told the man to stop and he didn't, you were raped. If your dumb ass laid there, okay, and made eye contact with him like read my mind fucking Spock, and he didn't, You had a bad experience.
Right. Just bad sex.
As a feminist,
yeah.
I'm going to agree with you.
Okay.
We all know what
This is a win for the culture.
come back to my places, or what it can. Okay, not what it is, what it can imply.
Especially after a romantic date. Now, if me and Demecos, because he's the only man here, so we're gonna pick on you all day.
Oh, that's cool. I thought you was talking about realistically.
If me and Demecos we were co-workers and we work together, we're working on a project and we have a deadline, and Demecos like, hey, come back to my house so we can get this project done. I'm going to Demecos' house with the expectation that we're going to work. So then if Demecos turns on Trey songs,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck you doing?
Right. Right. And at that point in time, and another thing, I don't know what the age of this young lady was, and I am not into victim shaming at all.
Mm-hmm.
Me neither.
When you
I hate those words, by the way.
But it's something.
It's real.
It's real.
It is. You're right.
So when you decide to play adult games like going on dates, what I would love for every woman to get into the habit of being empowered enough to speak up when it's something that they don't like, right?
Yeah.
So
Women aren't y'all taught that?
No.
No, I'm saying aren't y'all taught that when y'all don't like?
do we practice it? That's the
Okay,
question.
yeah, there we go.
And that's
do y'all
what I want
practice
to
that
talk
earlier?
about.
Do we
I want
practice
to talk
it?
about that. Can we talk about the fact that every woman in this room has probably been in a situation where they've been with a guy, they don't really want to get with him, but he is continuing to press, and you finally say, you know what, fuck it, let's just
Yes.
And
Really?
yeah.
But you know what?
To me, I would call that it's not rape, but it's consensual.
No,
but
I took an
it's
L.
Also,
I took an L. I took a loss. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing
What
with
you mean
that
took an L?
though. When you
I took a loss. Like if I
have
gave
y'all
it,
read the situation that happened between
Yeah,
the
that's
two
what I
of
would
them,
think.
like between her and the guy.
go ahead, break it down
She
to us.
stalked him at the event that they met.
Oh,
Girl.
She
yeah.
followed him around the room. He's a celebrity, first of all. This is not
So-
Tyrone
He's
making
a
$9.
targeted man, right?
Yes.
So she knew who he was. He
Yes.
didn't know who she
On
was.
top of that, he takes her out on a date.
Yep.
She goes.
Mhm.
She comes back home with him.
Mhm.
And I want to reiterate that going home with a man does not mean
No, it doesn't.
It does not mean that. It does not mean that
It
at all.
That also
So I don't
doesn't
wanna get any flack for
alleviate
saying
you
that.
from making ignorant
But-
decisions.
Absolutely.
But you not only went home with him, you
Mhm.
made out with him. You
Mm.
gave him head.
none of that makes a difference in my world because
But
it
hold on,
doesn't matter.
Let me finish. She gave him head.
So there.
And once she said, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, he backed off and said, okay,
That's a fact.
why
He did
didn't
say
you leave? Why did you go sit on the couch next to him? Now you're sending him conflicting signals.
that.
Mhm.
And that still doesn't justify a rape.
Mhm.
But understand, that's kind of like leaving, I'm tipsy, I can't think of it.
Tracy, go ahead.
What I'm saying?
I get you.
Church!
He backed off. He said, okay.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, well, can we watch TV? If you felt like you were in danger of being sexually assaulted, leave. You could have left. She said so herself that he's like, well, you know, what's going to happen now? Are you leaving? Why didn't you leave? This is not a man this size that you're alone with on a date. And
He not the size. He not the size of Demecos.
Wait a minute
6'4".
Hey, listen now.
And
Hey,
mind
there's
you,
some
I'm a
favor.
feminist and I'm pro-woman and I don't victim shame, but something
And I
about
think
this-
that's where we're entering the category.
So let's
but
let
something
Tracy
about this
speak
situation
her piece.
sounds like
Yeah, Tracy, what you got to say? 'Cause I want to follow up.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like we're getting into the weeds and we are starting to look at the victim like, shouldn't you have left? Shouldn't you? What were you wearing? Why did you go over there 2 a.m? I think that we're entering dangerous territory where we are now victim shaming the woman.
So let me ask you.
No, let her
So,
finish.
at what
Wait,
point do you draw
Shanika.
the line? Because I want her to elaborate.
I
on
would
where
like-
that line is between victim shaming and asking or questioning somebody's ability to discern.
Is it poor judgment? Yes, absolutely.
I'm-
It's poor
I
judgment.
want to hear the rest of
to
what you
put-
had to say.
Yeah, it's poor judgment for her to be in a place like that. It's poor judgment to, walk the streets of Atlanta 2 a.m. by yourself with being scantily clad. Does that person deserve to be raped? Absolutely not. Does that person deserve to be raped if she's on a date and the man decides that he's going to take it by force. I'm not talking about the Aziz Ansari situation. I'm saying that,
but that's what we are talking about. So, situation. What do you feel in that instance?
In that situation, I feel like she used extremely poor judgment.
Okay.
And so, should she have consequences for that poor judgment? That's another question I want to ask you.
The consequences of being raped?
Hold on. Hold on. I asked you a question. I said, do you think when someone makes a poor judgment, should someone receive consequences for poor judgment? Yes or no?
There are consequences to poor judgment.
Okay.
Yes.
So
wait a minute. Elaborate. Who's getting the consequences for the poor judgment? Her or him?
Her being persecuted, which looks like victim shaming, but her just simply being persecuted for having a bad date. That's the consequence of making bad judgment. Because she decided to then take a bad date to the public as if this man had sexually assaulted her.
So it's not
the consequence.
It's not a consequence of bad judgment. It's of her trying to make it, going to the public. Had she just kept it to herself, nobody would have known.
Fact.
It was your bad decision.
Fact.
You kept it to yourself. Maybe you and your homegirl, girl, I can't believe that shit went down.
And that's what I said. I said, I think
we've all been there before.
And when Tracie brought up the fact of probably giving in when we shouldn't have given in, that's not the man. That's you.
That's you.
Especially when you are an adult. That's you. So you took a L. You took a loss on this one. So now I'm going to call Sheneka after the event is over and I'm going to say, that nigga was a dud.
Now, I do think there's a fine line between that and feeling like, if I don't sleep with this guy tonight, I might not get out of here.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But that is not what happened with her and, what's his name?
Aziz.
I don't feel like that's what happened.
Maybe that's not what happened with that.
I feel like they made out, but we're talking about that situation, babe.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they made out. Mm-hmm. It went, you know what I think? I think she realized at some point, okay, he's not feeling me past.
There we go.
That's
bingo. I was waiting for somebody to say
that.
I was waiting for somebody to say that.
I fucked up.
Exactly.
I went with him. You know white girls. It read downhill. It read like I wanted this to be more than tonight.
Exactly.
And since it was, and Me Too is hot right now. Me Too.
Exactly, because it's obvious that he's not going to wife her. He's not going to cuff her. He's not going to continue.
I'm not going to go that far with that.
No. He doesn't have a history.
This is victim.
Can a male speak, please? Can I please share male perspective? Okay, thank you. All right. No man is a Harvard degree professional when it comes to dating women, unless that's something he specifically studies. You all are going into these. Y'all right. Mm-hmm. Y'all are going into these situations, thinking into these situations with the perceptions that men completely understand women, that men can completely read body language. I get it. There are some men who put women in circumstances where a woman feels that her only option out of this circumstance is through sleeping with him. I get that. But if you look at a lot of the cases in the large majority of when these, these wow, this one is getting to me. But a lot of these cases where women claim sexual assault, they're not often in cases where women feel trapped, where they feel like they don't have places to go. No, it's in the public. It's often at work, or it's often at some party, it's often at some club. There's plenty of opportunities to do many other things, and they're not often the accusations of, well, a woman went to a guy's house. Like the thing is, like, y'all have to understand that this whole Me Too movement has to come with educating men about proper etiquette when it comes to dealing with women, being able to read the signs, being able to understand fully what consent is sexual. This is all needs to become an educational tool, not a weapon to sit here and try to destroy the lives of men, which it seems to be for a large part.
Okay.
And I want to also say that when you all talk about rape and you say that women won't be believed, that is true. There are a lot of women out there who, especially children, that's what a lot of people overlook, is that female children are the ones who don't report their rape cases and molestations.
We're talking about 60% of black women.
65 now.
We're talking about 1 out of 4 black women who are raped. And we're talking about 1 out of 6 women who are raped. Here's the thing, though. Here's the kicker. It was the FBI up until 2012. 2012, the FBI considered rape to be basically the consent of a female. The FBI was not even counting rape that dealt with men. Men weren't even counted according to the FBI.
Okay,
So when
you get into that, I want to touch on what you just said.
All right.
Because I agree with you fully, except for that educating men.
Yeah.
Men understand harassment
Lord.
and boundaries
No,
and
we
consent
don't.
when it's a gay man hitting on them. Then
That's
y'all
true.
totally get it.
That is not true at all.
That is
gay men
true.
hit on us all the time, and we're not even cognizant of. A gay man can walk up and say, "Oh, wow, you're looking mighty buff in that shirt." Men, we don't know that that's sexual harassment. We just know that, okay, bro, I'm trying to.
I'm not talking about a gay man hitting on you.
That's sexual harassment.
I'm not talking about sexual harassment. I said consent. That implies sex.
Right.
You all understand if you're alone with a gay guy
Mhm.
and he's
If he touches us, it's wrong. If he even rubs us on the shoulder.
Exactly. So y'all understand that. But
Right.
when it's flipped and it's a man and a woman, y'all don't well, all I did was touch your leg. You shouldn't have done that.
Hold on.
You didn't have my consent to touch me.
Here's why I want to challenge that with this, right? Because women, there are conversations. You can see it in Facebook groups. It's all over line. Sometimes women like men when men are the aggressors. Some women get turned on when men are the aggressors.
You in mucky territory.
Right.
Yeah.
This is going to be very mucky. Some women have vocalized, I like when men make the first move.
No, man. We're not going to do that.
And here, the only problem,
Your
it's only a
first
problem.
move
It's only
should not be touching a woman. Period.
Nobody's saying. Most men know that's not going to work.
So I think where we're drawing the line, we getting
Again,
real.
this goes back to the
I
lack of
think this
education men
demonstrates.
have.
I think this demonstrates there are no clear boundaries.
No.
There aren't.
It's getting hot in here.
So men need to be educated. Who's responsible for that?
Both of us. Both men and women. Educate your sons about it.
Yes.
Educate
your daughters about it.
We all are using this Me Too movement. Not all of us, because some really are taking the time to educate. I follow a lot of women on IG who are post educational pieces.
All that whispering. Why don't y'all just say what it is? Damn it.
Go handle that, Pasha.
All we're saying is this: men have to be educated. Take this as an opportunity to create education and understanding, not to ridicule men for their missteps. It's like, yeah, okay, if he made poor decisions, show him how that was a poor decision. Don't sit here and tell him that he's a horrible person. Don't sit here and tell him.
If you assaulted a woman, you are a horrible person.
Yeah,
I don't care about educating you.
Because there are degrees of assault, is there not?
Okay. So let's back it on up. So let's back it on up. Let's back it on up. Let's back it on up in
You started here and now we're
and you give
no, we got
I think one of you all said it earlier when we talk about putting everything in one box and not looking at each circumstances with a fresh set of eyes. Mm-hmm. So we can't use one sweeping brush stroke in order to classify all of these different scenarios. I do believe, Tracie, the line is blurred. So again, my question was, when do we get to the point of understanding the difference between victim shaming and understanding whether or not that person was lacking discernment, and even asking the question, because in some instances it seems like you can't even ask the question as far as whether or not this person was exercising good judgment as far as being in certain situations.
There should be a bouncer. Women will come in there. If you were a dude who was hot, if you were a ball player, played football, basketball, or you were some type of musical artist who was famous, I would see them go up and rub up on a girl, and the girl look behind them, and she would be welcoming into it because she would then back herself up to be embraced by his arms. Versus a girl, I would see a girl be rubbed by a different guy, and she would turn around, and she'd be completely repulsed by it. All right, so again.
But that's her choice.
Yes, it's... What does that send? What signal does that send to men? That's what we're ignoring. We're ignoring that when you have to educate.
What signal does it send?
Yes.
It sends that I want to fuck him. I don't want to fuck you.
Yes, but it's looking to the outside. It's looking to the outside men as well. What kind of guy gets away with it? Do I have to have a lot of money, fame? Is that going to make me get away with it?
The core of that situation is male entitlement. Men feel entitled. I have money, so I can fuck her.
This is true. Why? Why? Because a lot also. I'm saying my whole thing is about telling the truth of its entirety. And a lot of that truth is ugly truth. There are a lot of women who would give it up to a guy because he has money and power.
But
right?
that's not
unwanted.
Right?
That's not unwanted.
There's nothing wrong with that, but the problem with
I
that
think
is that because it
there's
also
no
it
but. There's nothing.
No, I think what Demecos is saying that, and I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I think what he's saying is sometimes we're expecting men to know how to behave accordingly, and not for lack of. That's what I'm hearing. Like sometimes it's okay because he has money, or women will do X, Y, and Z because he has money,
right.
and women won't do X, Y, and Z. So a man gets mixed signals, and I'm not agreeing with this. This is what I'm hearing him say, though. A man will get mixed signals, and sometimes they don't know when to not do and when to do.
Here's the thing: if you're at work and we're talking about sexual harassment,
how
how you treat your mother is
about work.
But
I wouldn't even have sex with my mom.
You come
but I'm
here,
having sex with girls.
You come here, you get a paycheck, you take your ass home.
Right.
No,
so
there are couples
how
that
you
there are
treat
marriages
women
that spawn
at work
from the
is how you should
workplace.
be. How you treat mothers at home is how you should treat women at work, with respect.
But there are
Okay?
women that
Now,
spawn relationships from the workplace.
Hold on, I've let y'all talk. Now, if it gets to a point where you're having dialogue with this woman, you're seeing where it's going, you're seeing that there might be some flirtation there, that is different. But there's a lot of men that are just like a Harvey Weinstein. These women aren't even attracted to him.
That's an extreme case.
Immediately.
I don't think that's an extreme case.
No,
I think that's the typical case, because we talked about this being a type of society where men rule. So men are always, and this is the educational piece of it. Mm-hmm. Men are always usually in the position where they have power over someone. And the reason that we talked about the Aziz incident is because he didn't have any influence over her. This was a platonic date. He wasn't in a position, based upon what I've heard, what they have in the media, he wasn't in a position where he could launch this girl's career. He wasn't in a position on where he could harm her career. So the power that the Weinsteins have over the aspiring actresses coming up and things of that nature, or your boss, exactly, are different. So when we talk about these men in power, number one, I'm going to say something that Spider-Man said. I think.
Oh, this is
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I want to have this conversation.
With power, isn't it? With power comes great responsibility. Yes. So when you become a man of power, I do not believe that the well, I don't know where to draw the line is acceptable.
Why not?
Here's the thing. I think that we are walking into,
because your power is what you're using to make or break someone.
Everything we've talked about here.
Everybody. Let Tracie talk.
Everything we've talked about here and everything we've used as examples are examples of what I call rape culture, where we say, okay, well, where were you, victim? What was the circumstances that placed you in this situation? That is rape culture. That at its definition, that is rape culture.
That's my problem.
To say, okay, you should not have been putting yourself in this situation. You should not have been at his house at night. You caused your own rape. You caused your own situation.
And I just want to go ahead.
That's very true, because that happens a lot. That does happen a lot. What I get concerned with is that we're going to have a society that's so fearful of running into these hashtags in their lifetime that they're going to live a life trying to avoid a hashtag, avoid being.
They should.
Then how
you should be trying to avoid becoming a Mr. Me Too.
It was hold on.
So with
when you're avoiding a hashtag, right? These hashtags are they're not clearly defined, right? These hashtags, for one, aren't. There's no legislation behind the hashtag.
I don't care about the hashtag. This is my issue. There have been so Time Magazine has a article that's out where the list of these allegations are mounting, right? Mm-hmm. And out of all the ones that have came out, how many men have said that they didn't do it? Most of them are saying, I did do it. So what we don't want to run into the incident of is where Sheneka started us out. There's a side up for her and there's a side for him. Instead of everybody just jumping on, let's believe her. Listen to what this man is saying. And if the man is saying, I didn't do it, then why are we just agreeing or assuming that she's telling the truth? That's all I'm saying.
I think that goes back to what Tracie said, us living in a patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
In a patriarchy, we assume that women are what? weaker. So there's no way she could be lying.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that he did not victimize her. That goes right back to that. If we saw men and women as equals, she raped him.
If you saw men,
if I'm a victim, I don't want to be.
Either scenario is possible.
That's
not the case.
We gotta stop living in one. There, you don't. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to interrupt. I thought we were just having a dialogue. I'm trying to let everybody finish their point before I jump in. But I get concerned with it because I don't want us to sit here and keep trying to put each other in boxes because we're going to find ourselves confined and living the existence that are too small for us. And I only say it because when I'm coaching clients, I'm dealing with clients. I have a client who comes to me because he doesn't want to fail his father's expectations of her. Or a woman who's come to me because she's been molested by her uncle or she's been molested by her father and she doesn't know her. She's having problems being vulnerable in relationships with men. And it's all because of expectations. They're all trying to fit an expectation. What is the problem? So when you create more labels and more hashtags that people have to live under, abide by, and navigate around, that doesn't allow a human being to fulfill their capacity of being a human being.
No, I want to give Tracie one full minute to say anything that she needs to say because her belief or maybe her thought is not being projected as much as I would like it to be because we're kind of talking on the same level and Tracie has a little bit of a opposing opinion. So Tracie, no, don't be sorry. This Real Talk with Pasha B.
We're all in this together.
No.
That's why we're having this conversation.
Right. And when we come to this table, table to be able to have honest dialogue, whether we agree or we don't. Right. We love each other after we leave. But I want Tracie to have a full minute to be able to say any and everything. If you want to say y'all is full of shit, say we full of shit.
I just think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous that we start to piecemeal and try to figure out exactly, where the victim went wrong in this. When I come forward and I say, hey, this guy assaulted me or this guy raped me, I want to be believed. And I don't want to sit here and feel like, well, what did you do to deserve this? I don't want that. And I might be not, there might be other women out there who are doing things, manipulative things to men. I get that. You're going to have that on both sides. You're going to have women who, abuse the system so they can get ahead and be gold diggers and sleep their way to the top. And then you're going to have women who really have a legitimate reason when somebody comes to them and has assaulted them and raped them and they feel like I can't even come forward because everyone in the world is going to think that, I deserve this or I'm lying. And that's just, I feel like that's wrong. And I think that happens more so the majority of the time than the opposite of the guy was accused.
The stats prove that.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to say this since she opened this.
Hold on, stats prove what?
Let her talk.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the stats prove what she's saying is true. The stats prove that there are, I think, less than 6% of false rape allegations compared to, I'm going to say 87 or 80 something, 80 something percent of allegations that are found to be true. And of those, less than half of those are prosecuted. So the numbers point that it's more likely for you to be falsely accused. It's more likely for you to actually rape someone than it is for you to be falsely accused of raping someone. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then we should give more credence to every single woman that says, yes, I was raped.
Mm-hmm. The thing is,
and I've been trying to say that since you opened.
The thing is that I'm not going to come forward anymore if I still see that people are not going to believe me.
But is it? You got your church finger up. I'm gonna let you talk. But is it about people not believing her, or is it about people waiting for the
investigation to?
Not even the investigation, giving the person being accused to have a say so as well.
I think you should have both. Okay. I think that it's legit for a person who's been accused to be able to defend themselves.
Look at Demecos' face. Demecos, you gonna have it after Sheneka, okay? Go ahead, Sheneka.
Yeah. So I just want to turn the conversation just a little because we've been kind of going around and around on this. I'm curious as to how do you feel about men who've been harassed or assaulted? So recently, it's 15 current former male models. They accused a commercial photographer by the name of Bruce Weber of inappropriate behavior, unnecessary nudity, coercive sexual behavior, molestation, masturbation during photo shoots. Also, I want to reference Terry Crews. And I'm going to take it a little further and take it a little younger as far as I'm going to give you a lot. Because so what I'm getting to is the stigma attached to men coming forward when they are raped. Are they looked at similarly when women are molested? So or assaulted. So, and I'm going to go to the extreme. So in listening to, there are a couple of, the Breakfast Club. I was into the Breakfast Club and Charlamagne the God. He said this numerous times. His first sexual encounter. We're not talking about him as a person, as she rolling her eyes. I'm talking about his first sexual encounter was with a grown woman. DeRay Davis, the comedian. His first sexual experience was with a grown woman. And I know men personally who have been molested. And the crazy thing is they don't even look at it as molestation, as children by grown women. Yeah. So I'm putting all of this, and I know I talked about speaking in broad sweeping statements, but ultimately what I'm talking about is the stigma attached, going back to what you're saying, Tracie, about victim shaming and all of that. Do you not think, I'm not going to do a leading question. How do you feel about men not feeling comfortable coming forward because they've been assaulted?
Sure. I have a lot of male friends. Almost all my male friends have had some type of victimization when they were younger, a molestation. And like you said, you're absolutely right. They don't see it as a molestation. They don't even use the word molestation. They may use it, my older babysitter or my cousins did something to me when I was young. And I think we're in a culture where young men, they get molested, and it's almost a weird thing where it's like, okay, it's not okay, but where they're like, okay, I had my, virginity taken at 11, and people hear that and they're like, yeah, because you got with an older woman, right? And it's almost like a badge of honor when it really is a molestation. Let's call it what it is. A person who is 30 years old or 25 years old or even 19 years old assaulted an 11-year-old boy. It's sick. I have an 11-year-old boy. And so I think that, yes, there are, especially in the Black community, a lot of Black men being assaulted at a young age. And I think it's absolutely horrible. I will say this, is that the problem is that if I'm talking to you about what's happening with me as a Black woman in the workplace, being harassed at work or walking the street, and you come to me with, yeah, me too, I've been assaulted, or yeah, me too, I also have been. You mean raped.
As a man or
as a man?
Okay.
If my man comes to me and says, well, what about me? I've been falsely accused, or what about me? I've been sexually assaulted. There's a time and place for that. Right now, I'm telling you about my boss raping me. And so I think this movement right now is about giving women a voice to be able to state those things and not have our men take that moment from us.
I agree.
And I feel like every time we talk to our men about that, the first thing out of their mouth is the time that they were falsely accused or the time that they were raped by their babysitter. And I'm not saying that the rape that they encountered wasn't real, raw, and wrong. But I'm saying that right now is my moment.
And I get that. I 100% agree that this movement that's going on right now is for a sole purpose. Mm-hmm. And that's for women who have been victimized to be able to come out, say what they need to say about it, and not be victim shamed, second guessed, or anything.
Not all men.
Right.
Not me, not all men. I didn't do that.
Right. There should not be anything else led after that. It should just be a listening, a education piece of it. And that's what we're going to talk about as well. Sheneka's going to lead us into that, the education piece, the conversations that we need to be having. And Demecos before we get to that, I'm going to let Demecos talk because he's been quiet. But Tracie, I agree with that point. And I'm not saying I don't agree with anything else you said, but I do agree with that point that it should not be a
tit for tat.
A tit for tat. Absolutely. Noelle?
Can I piggyback?
You can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something I feel pretty passionate about. Men who are, my ex-husband was raped by his babysitter, a female babysitter, when he was 13.
Mm-hmm.
She was 20.
Mm-hmm.
And it affected our sex life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like had he gotten the therapy that he needed, we probably wouldn't still be together, but I mean, it would have lasted longer.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Black boys and Black men are molested, they're raped. And if we're going to speak about, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional about that. If we're going to speak about educating men, like you mentioned, I think that starts with, we mentioned that we live in a patriarchy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So women are the weaker sex.
Mm-hmm.
So we have got to, at some point, start believing the weaker sex when they say, this is what happened to me. Because if we can't believe the weaker sex that something happened to them, we're never going to believe that it happened to the stronger sex.
True.
So it's hand in hand.
Gotcha.
If you can't accept that this horrible thing happened to me,
mm-hmm.
nobody's going to believe that it could possibly happen to you. And that starts with when we had the conversation,
mm-hmm.
It happened to me too. Well, not me, not my friends. All that doesn't need to be a part of the conversation.
Right.
You need to listen, hear out the pain, and acknowledge it. So
right. And I think that there's a place for men in the Me Too movement.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a place for men being sexually harassed on the job. I've certainly heard stories of, men who have had women in power and have been harassed by their bosses. I think all of that is legitimate. I just feel like the timing of them coming forward and saying that when I say I have cancer, well, you know what, I got AIDS.
Right. The one-up type situation.
It's a one-up thing, and you could have told me that at any time that you've been molested. Don't choose to do it at the time when I'm sharing about my molestation or about my sexual harassment on the job, or about the cat calls and some guy trying to grab me in the bar or whatever. Don't choose to talk about how some woman falsely accused you at that time. Don't need to. But
and I think Shanique's gonna say exactly what. So that we may not need to discredit the fact that may be a time that he feels as though he can share that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I do get that. But Demecos, go ahead.
Okay. So.
Hey, Demecos, welcome back.
Am I live?
You are.
Am I live? Okay. All right. Because I want to be extra patient with you ladies. Because listen, I'm a student of life. I'm always learning, right? And I'm always absorbing. And most of my clients are women, right? Here's what the thing that makes me different from a lot of coaches is I focus on fair confrontation, but most importantly, I'll always focus on self-empowerment, which relies on self-accountability. All right. So when it comes to these conversations around rape culture, and specifically this one about men not being encouraged to come out about their sexual experiences, nobody cares about men's, not even just emotionally. Society doesn't care about men.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear patriarchy is real, I give you that 1,000% is real.
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem when I hear that painted is that the truth isn't told that patriarchy has levels. A black man doesn't have the same level of patriarchy as a white man in this country. A Hispanic man doesn't have the same level of patriarchy in this country. In Asian man, it's not the same levels. Is it still over the women that are in their genders? Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. But there are layers. I'm not granted the same privileges as a white man, or who's a traditional white man who's married and comes from a middle class family.
Right, but you still have patriarchy over me, a black woman. You still have privilege.
This is true, but you also, as a black woman, you have privilege over Mexican women. Is that not true?
You know what?
I'm just saying.
All
right, let me reel it back in. All right, so going back to because I like to tell the truth. I don't want to just stick to one side of the face.
You just provided her exhibit A, what we were talking about.
All right. So what I'm saying is this: men do not get the credit. We do not get cared about emotionally. Because society doesn't care how we are emotionally.
you
Because of our patriarchy. Because we are the ones that's in power, y'all don't care about how we feel.
No, it's not us.
Hold on.
That's like saying I don't care about how the
was I not quiet?
Demecos was quiet for 2.5 minutes.
That's a long ass time.
It was for him. So we need to be able to give him the opportunity, even if we don't agree.
That's fine. Yeah.
To Demecos, do me a favor, clip it to your shirt.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh. I don't care about your male fragility. That's basically what you're saying. It's like,
but he's a man, so he maybe that's his experience. Yeah. We actually have another man in the room. Jason, I don't like to point, but I'm pointing, so you may have to come over here.
But no women
and say something.
Here's what's been interesting. And listen, privilege. Men got privilege. I give you that across the board. Men have privilege. I give women that wholeheartedly. I'm one of the men who advocates for equity, equality among women and men. Equity and equality. I'm for that 1,000%. I'm out here on the lines with y'all. All right. The problem is why a lot of men don't listen to a lot of women's problems is because it's human. A lot of men feel that they aren't cared for, so therefore they're not going to care for somebody else's problems. That's not I'm a man.
Or Jason over there.
Hold on.
It's not a I'm a man and you're a woman thing. It's a I'm a human being thing. Because as you being a black woman, if somebody's not going to bring your black woman issues to the forefront, then chances are you aren't going to care about their issues that they're trying to bring to the forefront because it doesn't correlate to who you are.
I feel like nobody has brought our issues to the forefront.
Hold on. See that? Okay, all right. That's a whole other subject.
I get it. You're basically saying that it's hard for you guys to rally around the Me Too movement. It's hard for you to rally around what's happening with black women because, abuse and neglect and shame and all of that is happening to black men as well. And you guys want to be the knight in shining armor to support us, but when you feel attacked, that it is you, it is hard for you to identify with us and understand where we're coming from when you feel like you also are dealing with those same things, yet being attacked.
Exactly.
And just a moment, Demecos. So we have another guest that just came in. Jason. First of all, Jason, welcome. You came right in the middle of all of this, and he been over there squirming and co-signing and throwing up. Go ahead, Jason. What do you have to say?
All right, just piggybacking off what both Marco and Tracie said, it's like a cycle of abuse that's going on in the black community for far too long. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the problem is the divisiveness involved. We got the same issues. We on the same team. Mm-hmm. We black people. If some cops came into this room right now to harass some folks, you think they're going to separate the men and the women? Nah. They're going to be like, look, all y'all black people, hands up against the wall. We locking all of y'all up. What's going on here? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, I'm thinking the divisiveness is really what kind of blows my mind a little bit because I've never seen sisters as having issues that I should ignore, right? And I shouldn't feel ignored either.
Right.
We got the same problems. You were abused by some dude at some point in time.
It's different, but generally,
right? Overall, that's what I'm saying.
It's pain.
It's pain.
It's pain. It's different
sexually
levels of pain.
At one point in time, and
that's the problem.
Or whatever.
You want to say my pain is more important than your pain, and then you're ignoring the human being who's experiencing their pain. So when you make a human being feel like their pain isn't also a priority, that's not going to rally a human being to want to get behind your pain.
I know, but at the same time, I feel like you're downplaying our pain because you endure pain.
I don't think it's downplaying. I think it's saying, look, we have something in common.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
We're finding the commonality.
What's wrong with saying we have the same issue?
But how can I rally with you? How can I march with you? How can I support you if you are unwilling to see what is happening with me?
That's not true. We're not saying that we're unwilling.
The unwilling part.
You hurt here, I hurt here too. Let's see how it's.
You're doing that Me Too dismissive thing.
Mm-hmm. It's not, I don't think it's dismissive. I think it's saying
y'all are literally saying no, we're not. She's saying yes, you are.
It's basically what you're doing right now is
because
all lives matter.
Well, let me ask you.
I too am hurting. I too.
I was agreeing with.
Well, let's start with the hashtags.
Okay, hold up.
The hashtags are creating diversity.
Demecos, I have a question. Yeah. I have a question because I'm hearing what both of you are saying, and if you are sharing with me an experience, I'm talking to Tracie. If you had an experience and you're sharing with me, and I said, and I'm just trying to get clarity so everybody understand, and I said, you know what, Tracie, the same thing happened to me, and we engaged in a conversation. Would you see that as me kind of kind of taking your pain or hijacking the Me Too movement? Do you think the Me Too movement is strictly a male versus female thing? Because what I heard you all say was if Demecos come to you and say, you know what, the same thing happened to me, you're going to feel some type of way. But if I come to you and say, you know what, girl, the same thing happened to me, I'm saying you're going to respond differently.
Fact.
But what he's saying is, we all had the same experience. It's a common
she's going to respond.
You got to find common
because
ground.
you're going to approach her pain differently than he is. You're approaching it like, yeah, that happened to me too. He's approaching it like, what about me? Exactly. It happened to me too. What about? Let's talk about my pain.
Exactly.
It's two different responses from two different approaches. And to be honest, men do not approach us like, yeah, it happened to me too. Like, let's talk. We don't get that. We get
well.
Let me answer the question. Mm-hmm. If I said I have cancer, Sheneka, and you said me too, I have cancer as well. If you sat there and then talked about an hour about your cancer and not listened to what's happening with my cancer, I would be like, well, dang, I do feel like you've made it all about you in this conversation, and it's not about me dealing with my cancer and you being a support to me. It's I too have
or being a support to each other.
Yeah. Okay. And so I feel like our black men, our black community is doing that to black women right now, where it's almost, yes, that happened to you, but let's talk about me. Yes, you got harassed on the job, but let's talk about that time I got accused for false harassment on my job. And it's almost like dismissive of what happened to you. It comes off as empathy at first, but it really isn't. It is a shift. Let's shift, what's happening with you to talk about. It's like, oh, you got a sniffle. Well, let me tell you about the time I got a heart attack.
That goes back to my point again. You all don't care about a man feeling emotional.
We do care. It's just a matter of
You just sat here and determined what his intent was without sitting here trying to understand where his intent originated from. Because you, as a woman, you see in your experience, we all have finite experiences. All right? So when you saying that, a man is coming to you in this certain manner, trying to relate to you, because he has a similar circumstance, that means that he's trying to make his a priority over yours. That's not true. He's really trying to find common ground. And so you also...
It depends on the man.
It depends on the man and the woman.
Right. So I think we're at a crossroads here that we're going to have to say that we agree to disagree when it comes to...
Well, I just want to give one more example. So I was in an abusive marriage.
Me too.
Okay.
Well, not marriage relationship.
Me too. Look at you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thing. So when I tell men about my abusive marriage and what I went through, if I talk to a man and he says, yeah, I went through abusive marriage, but I wasn't the abuser. I was being beat on every day.
And she thinks I'm making her experience small. I'm not. I want to appreciate yours.
It does feel like you're making my experience small, because I'm telling you what happened in my marriage, and you're telling me about how your wife beat your behind. Maybe she did beat your behind, but 9 times out of 10, the guys that I've dated, it actually was he did something to her, and that's why she whooped his ass. Because he was actually
I'm not going to do that. Jason, say what you got to say. Jason got to... I don't have a mic.
It's ignoring. I'm trying to find common ground, and you're sitting here saying you literally made a reason
Sheneka,
of why it's okay for me to get my butt whooped. Because it happens to women more of the time. I'm trying to find common ground and say, look, you've been beaten, I've been beaten too. This is an issue that's important to us. The stories behind it are different. Okay. The stories that have happened to you are different.
Okay.
Mine are different.
I just want to hear from the women I just want to hear from the women's perspective. What does that empathy from a man actually look like to you? Like, let's be solution oriented. We already know there are some people who are going to make it about them. But what about somebody who's genuinely saying, look, we got the same problem. I feel your pain. Happened to me too. Let's have a dialogue and talk about some solutions here. What does that look like in a black woman's mind?
I simply want you to say, babe, I hear that you had this situation with your boss. How can I help? I'm just here to listen. Okay. How can I? What would you like me to do? What would you like me to? If you just want me to listen, if you want me to respond, if you want me to act, I need empathy and not, dismissiveness.
Okay, and I agree with that. Now I do have another question, piggybacking off of that, because you said something earlier that there's a time and a place for men to do the Me Too thing. Time and place for it, and I do agree with you totally that I'm gonna come back. And I do totally agree with you that the time to not do it is when
I think
someone's
he's did this before.
The time to not do it is when somebody's going through something. I totally agree. You know, I got shot and I'm bleeding. You know what? I got shot last week. That's not the time for that. That's not the time for that. I agree. But do you think it's possible that the women's movement is going to inspire the courage for men to come out and say the same thing too?
Definitely. I think there's a lot of
men support it.
Okay.
Only if men support it. If you cannot believe your weakest sex, you're never going to believe the strong.
Okay.
So to me, I'm with Tracie. Empathy doesn't feel like, oh, it happened to me too. Empathy is, really? Tell me about that. How can I help you? That's empathy. Empathy is not deflection. The second you deflect it to you, you're no longer empathizing.
True.
Now you want an equal exchange of the pain. And when you're empathizing with someone, you're not trying to get your back soothed. You're trying to soothe theirs.
Gotcha.
And on a side note, a lot of times, and you know this, I've told you this before online, I don't see men mention their sexual assault until we're talking about women and sexual assault.
But that's true. But I don't want to go there with that.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that.
You're right, though. Like, you're right.
If in the moment when I'm telling you about what
it's not the time.
Let's talk about me.
Absolutely.
And how we're going to get to the women's movement, moving and helping men, is to support the women.
Okay.
Believe them. And it will trickle down, you know.
So now we're at somewhat of the end of our dialogue, but I definitely want to talk about the education. Demecos we have some upset people. I'm gonna have to get some Hennessy and some we're gonna have to get some Hennessy and some Popeyes because it's a lot. Because black people are not happy right now
because there's so much trauma and pain.
It is, and so I think we need to do this as a part tour. Maybe not today, but as a part tour, because this is one of the reasons why we do this podcast and we try to have a blend of people is because we're not really here, or we're not always here or having the male perspective of it. So what I don't want to do is deafen these two male voices that we have right here, because men don't always feel comfortable in saying certain things or feeling as though they have the audience for people, especially women, especially black women, to feel receptive or sensitive to it. So I don't want this to get lost in dialogue. What I do want to talk about is something me and Sheneka, we talked about this morning in regards to what are the conversations that we're having with our children. Because little Harvey Weinsteins or big Harvey Weinsteins, they're not born and then they're big Harvey Weinsteins. They're little Harvey Weinsteins at some point in time. So what are the conversations that we're having with our young men and with our young women in regards to appropriate interactions with the opposite sex? That's what we need more of.
Yeah.
Okay, we need Demecos out there talking to young men and young women, letting them know how you should interact with people. We need the Tracies and the Noelles. And it may not even be Demecos going to stand on the soapbox. It may just be Demecos talking to his niece and nephew. Because I'm going to tell you this, Demecos' nephew, because I'm about to talk about my daughter. You see where I was going with that? I need to get the right gender. Demecos' nephew could potentially be a suitor for my daughter. And Pasha's not having, you know what I'm saying? That's not something that I want for my child to experience, where these young boys are growing up and they don't have that voice or those role models to give them information to make them productive adults instead of big Harvey Weinsteins. Yeah. So Demecos is talking about how men don't necessarily know how to interact with women all the time the proper way. We need to be having conversations with our young people about that.
And men having conversations with other men about that.
But we're not going to, but that's true. But here it is. We're talking about the educational piece that we're having with the little people. Because once men get to Demecos' age and Jason's age, you can't tell them nothing. Now, their counterparts, if they align themselves with men who they're willing to listen to,
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe. But I'm more concerned with saving the little people. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I've developed my suit of armor. So I probably won't get myself into any type of situations that an Aziz situation. Because again, Pasha's a grown woman, right? So if Pasha, Jason, you're now being picked on.
Don't say it, girl. Don't say it.
So Jason, if we went out on a date and you invited me, no, if I invited you back to my house, just be prepared to fuck.
I'm definitely preparing to fuck.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I think
Not that it's gonna happen. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, I've probably have enough life experience that not saying anything negative can't happen to me where it comes to like a rape or situation.
Because that could occur.
Because it could occur.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is being accountable for your actions as well.
Right.
That's all. So the younger people, what are we talking about? The younger people, what are we saying to them?
What are we saying to them? Because that's my question.
They aren't saying
as
anything.
far as parents
They're not
are
saying
concerned,
anything.
oftentimes it seems like the conversation is focused toward the little girls and how girls should behave. And so
the girls are being shamed. These girls.
No. What they're doing is they're being told of how to act accordingly, but we're not telling our young boys how to act accordingly.
We're saying to the young girls,
not teaching
here's
consent.
how not to be a victim, you know, and we're not doing that for our young men. How not to be a predator.
Yeah. Consent is not just the absence of a no. It's also the presence of a yes. So even if she didn't verbally say, no, I don't want this, what's her body saying?
We're not going to go in with that body language stuff now.
Because we're talking about,
it's
as
a
far as the
conversation
difference about the conversations we have with little boys and little girls.
Yeah.
So as men and women, what conversations are you having with boys? We know what you're having with girls, but what conversation are you having with little boys?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We're not teaching little boys the real definition of consent. To them, consent is, well, she didn't say no, and that's not true. Even if her mouth didn't say no, what did the rest of her say? Did she say yes? You know,
I just wanted to emphasize that when I ask the question, I'm not asking men, what are you saying to little boys? I'm also saying women, what are you saying to your little boys as well?
Yeah.
Are you having a conversation, the same conversations with your little boys that you're having with your little girls?
I have a little boy and a little girl, and I say those things to both of my children. He's 11 and she's 14.
Do you believe that that's a conversation that the vast majority of people have with both their sons and their daughters?
They probably are not having those conversations. We have been having those conversations since age 3, though. I mean, I just happen to be very vocal when it comes to sex education with my children. So, you know, we are very open-minded and we talk about those things. But I would say I'm probably unconventional in that way.
You're an anomaly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the conversation in my household, I have 7 brothers, 3 sisters. All of the boys were taught, you know, go out and sow your wild oats. The girls were taught to keep your legs closed. So we're teaching our children 2 conflicting ideals. And that contributes to rape culture too. You know, if I give it up, I'm a hoe.
Yep. Absolutely.
So if I got raped, I probably asked for it because I'm a hoe.
Yeah.
Because I opened my legs.
And everyone around you is saying that, your aunts, your uncles, and you know, well, what were you doing?
The church. Don't even get me started.
The church.
So I am going to wrap this up. I just want to give Demecos one, because I'm going to have to go buy Demecos a 3-piece spicy.
3.
No.
He's nursing his beer.
I don't think he's in his feelings. I think maybe he's feeling as though he didn't get adequate time to express. That's why. Yeah, I'm gonna end this with him.
I will say this. This is all around.
You got the mopey face and everything.
Listen, because when you look on my side of the fence, you know, working in mental health with clients from a mental health perspective, these stories I hear them all the time. You know, so when y'all think that things are so obscure, random, etc., no, they're normal. People just don't tell you about them. So one thing I didn't hear at this table, which is interesting, is the things that most parents never have the conversation. Most parents never take parental training prior to having children. Most parents never take parental training while having children. We just believe that we're going to be good parents by osmosis of just having children. We figure we're going to figure it out. The only way that we model our parents is after the models of our parents, of how they parented us, which was, again, them just learning by trial and error. These are the most pivotal portions of our lives that we still take irresponsibly. When you go to countries like Norway or Switzerland, where they teach not just sex education about herpes and diseases, but just sexuality to children at the age of 3, they come to find out that as their children grow to become adults, they're less likely to get pregnant as teenagers, and they're less likely to be sexually active as teenagers. In our country, we suppress sex. So it's not just only telling your little girl, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. It's also shaming sexuality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We say that you shouldn't have sex with a person unless they love you.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't, and if you do, you're violating this or you're violating God, etc., etc.
Okay.
When we don't do those things with children, little boys and little girls, this why these girls, they grow up and they never tell anybody they've been raped or molested, right? Because they feel shameful about it, because they grew up in a culture that told them sex is shame, right? So my whole thing around this all is that I, as a man, I want to support women continuously. I do support women continuously, but I want to understand y'all more. The problem that I face is that when we try to put each other in boxes, we try to confine each other to a certain entity of being. A man should do this or a woman should do that. We completely destroy what we could both cultivate, how we work together. We just blur the lines, because sexuality doesn't operate on a one thing. Yes, it's fluid. It's on the spectrum.
I agree.
Right. So when as a man,
and dating has evolved also. What we were doing 100 years ago is not what we're doing now. And we're redefining what dating is.
Monogamy today is different than monogamy was with our great grandparents. Monogamy with them was one person for the rest of your life. Monogamy for us today is one person at a time. Right? It's going to continue to change, but we have to have these open-minded conversations. We can't try to force anyone to adhere. People are afraid of being a hashtag, and so when we create these hashtags, yes, to create awareness, it's necessary, but the education must come with the awareness, and that comes by creating understanding, not vitriol. Mm-hmm. Not trying to make someone out to be a villain or evil because they have a certain practice. You got to keep in mind, these people grew up with these beliefs. Mm-hmm. These beliefs was installed in them as children. So that's just been my only stance, is that I want us to approach these conversations with understanding and not vitriol.
Absolutely. Demecos, I love you.
That was a good ending.
That was.
Demecos.
Shout out to Corona.
Shout out to Corona.
So Demecos, please provide all of your social media information and where people can stay up to date with what's going on with you.
I'm very active, mostly on Facebook. You'll find me on Facebook. Just search Demecos Chambers, Demecos. My website, findthecouragenow.com, is also available, and I'm very active on Instagram at Demecos, Demecos, and I'm known as the authority on fear.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for allowing me to be in your presence this
Noelle, thank you for adding some color to our conversation.
Can I shout out my blog?
You can, of course.
Her Story the blog, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Her Story the blog. 4 words.
4 words. Mm-hmm. Tracie, thanks for sticking to your guns.
It's hard when you got so many strong opinions.
Absolutely.
It's all good. Thank you for giving me a moment in the platform.
Thank you. Sheneka, thanks for having the facts.
I didn't even get to all of it. We're going to have part 2. We're doing part 2.
We could do a part 2.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I know we went around and about and came back and forth, but we hope that you got something from this podcast.
And continue the conversation.
And yes, that's the great takeaway. Continue the conversation, not only within your circle, but again, with the younger adults that are coming up. Until next time.